This is where we left in the previous video by implementing what is called authorization using a middleware. Before we get into the front end, let me show you how we are going to access the login user in our route. With this implementation, any route that we are going to protect, as soon as a user is logged in successfully, we have access to that user on a property called rec.user. Let me prove to you. Let's get into the controller of post, which is this one. And in the creating, I can go ahead and log the rec.user. And remember, we are saving the ID only of the user. So now let's open the terminal, and back here, make sure to log in. Indeed, I'm logged in, and create. Let's check the terminal. As you can see, we have the login user, which is this. So upon creating a post, we can pass in the user who is creating the post with this ID. But before we get into that, let's get to the front end. How are we going to make a request and send the token along? Remember, we are using Passport with cookies and token, and that is JSON Web Token. With this approach, you don't have to send the token along upon making a request. But one thing that we need to bear in mind, when using Axios, we have to modify the Axios configuration the same way we did for the users API. Over here, we are passing in this one, which is called with credentials, being set to true. By default, it is false. If it is false, it means that the request cannot take the token in the cookie. So we are going to do the same thing on the post API on the client side. With this one, without the modification, let's go ahead and create a post. So let's get to the / create post. And for this, I have logged out, but I can still see this one, the form. So let's also go ahead and protect that. So let's get into the app, and for creating, unless you are logged in, so here we're going to use our auth route and then paste that. And also for updating, okay, let's maintain this for now. And as you can see, it is checking the authentication status before it can redirect me to the login page. All right, so let me go ahead and log in. And if I go to the create post, now I can access that. Let me create some dummy post as React.js version 5 or 4. And let me just use this one just to show you something. And let me select this image and then create. As you can see, we got no auth token, meaning that I'm not logged in. By the way we are displaying the error message, let me change that. So in the post here for creating, let's locate the displaying of the error, which is this one. I'm going to use it inside the form itself or the JSX. So let me copy this, and the same way we are displaying the success, I'm going to paste that. Or let me duplicate this and then paste this one here and change this one to is error. Now I can remove this one from here, and now let's see. As you can see, we got no auth token, even though I have logged in. That is why you see the private navbar. So how are we going to pass the token in the cookie? Let me show you here in the application. We have the token here in the cookie. So upon setting what is called the with credentials on the API, which is this one. So here as the third argument to Axios, we have the endpoint, the data, and then the configuration as that with credentials being set to true. Now with this one, let's go ahead and then try again. Let me refresh it and say data here. Let me say some data or some content. Make it bold and select image. Let me use this one or this. Okay. And now let me create. As you can see, loading, please wait, and post created successfully, which means that it is working fine. Awesome. So any route or endpoint that is protected upon making the request, make sure to pass the with credentials. And for this one, we don't have it for the update, so let's pass in as with credentials being set to true. And for fetching all is public, single is public, but for deleting is private. So let's pass in the with credentials being set to true. Awesome. So this is how we can implement authorization. And for this one, we can create one for admin or for normal users. But as it stands right now, any login user is an admin who can create a post or delete a post that belongs to him or her, but not deleting a post that belongs to a different person. So now we can finish up with the creating of the post by bringing in who created a post. So let's get back to the model and then the post here. Now that we have implemented the authentication, let's bring this one back to required field. So with this one, if I go ahead and create a post, we're going to see validation error, which means that author field is required. And this author field takes in the ID of the user. And remember, we have the login user on the request object as rec.user. So let's go ahead and then use that. Back to the controller of post. This is where we are logging the user. Let's check the terminal and we have it as that. So here we are going to pass in the user, that is the author, and then the ID as rec.user. And that is it. So with this one, let's try again. And now I can create. If you look at the author, now we are associating this post to a user. As you can see, we have the user here, which ends with 9F. That's the ID. The same thing inside the request object, we have it as 9F. Now we are done with the association. Let's continue in the next video.